Hello friends, this video on organisms and population part 15 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Now we are going to talk about migrate. Now it is not necessary that all organisms either need to regulate or conform. There are certain organisms who also find out a temporary way of adjusting with environment. So migration is a temporary movement of organisms from unfavorable places to suitable ones till the weather conditions become suitable. So let's say I'll give you a very simple example to relate to this concept. So let's say during the peak month of say May or June, when it is extremely hot in Delhi. So you think that, okay, I don't want to bear so much of heat. So what you can do, you simply fly from Delhi and you come to Bangalore during the hot summer months. So you spend the summer season maybe from May to July in Bangalore, where relatively the temperature is lower and you do not feel that hot. And then again, when the suitable environment is back in Delhi, you move back to Delhi. So this is migration. So you migrated from the unfavorable place to a suitable place only for a temporary period of time. So it was not a permanent movement, just a temporary movement. So this is known as migration. So that's how many organisms also adapt. Say they do not want to spend energy in regulating, so they do not have that capacity to spend so much of energy to regulate their internal environment. They also do not want their internal environment to change as per the changes in the external environment. So what they do, they simply leave the place which has an unfavorable climate, maybe during extreme cold or during extreme heat. They leave the place and move to another suitable place for a couple of months. And the fourth way of adjusting is to suspend. What is the meaning of suspend? Suspend means when something comes to a halt or something gets paused. So some organisms escape or hide or remain inactive during unfavorable conditions. So whenever there is unfavorable conditions, so they do not change their location, but they do not regulate, they do not conform. What they do is they stop doing anything. They become completely inactive. They become almost like dead. So when they become so much inactive, there is very minimum use of energy within their body. Right? Now, since very minimum use of energy, so they do not feel hungry, they do not need to go out in search of food. So, they kind of they go to a very deep sleep during the unfavorable conditions. And when the favorable conditions come back, they again become active and normal. Now, different animals do it in different ways. Some animals hibernate, some of them become dormant, and some fishes enter into the stage of aestivation. So these are all processes where the organism suspends all the activities during unfavorable conditions. So let's talk about hibernation. So hibernation is like a deep sleep during unfavorable weather to conserve as much energy as possible. Now, since you are inactive during this stage, it is almost like you are sleeping. So when you are sleeping for months together, what happens? There is no energy. Your body doesn't need a lot of energy. So you do not need a lot of food. You do not need to do anything. So you are just alive, but as if you are in a deep sleep for a long period of time. So it is a state of inactiveness. Now, some hibernators go into such deep sleep that they even might appear to be dead to others, but actually they are not dead. Now, when they go for a deep sleep for such a long time, sometimes their body temperature also drops, their heartbeat rate slows down, and all these things reduces the expense of energy in the metabolic activities. So let us look at some of the hibernators here. So one good example is bear. They remain inactive, they appear dead for a couple of months in a year. Some of the ground squirrels, jumping mouse, these are all examples of hibernator. So their deep sleep help them to conserve energy. The second type of suspend is seed dormancy. Now, this dormancy is again a state of inactiveness, and this is more common with regards to plants. So it is a mechanism to prevent germination during unfavorable conditions, as the probability of seedling survival is low. Now, what is germination? The process where the seed gives rise to the seedling, and the seedling grows to form a plant. So that process is called, that process starts with germination. Now, germination has to happen during favorable conditions so that the plant do not die. But during unfavorable conditions, even if we force germination to happen, in most of the cases, the seedling doesn't survive due to the adverse climatic conditions. So therefore exists the concept of seed dormancy. It is a very common term, and a dormant seed is unable to germinate during unfavorable conditions. Now it remains, for example, here if you look at the life cycle of a seed, you see that this is the resting period where it doesn't do anything. Right? So it will not germinate, it will not form seedling, it will not form the plant. So it will just become inactive for a particular time period. So this dormancy can happen in a number of ways. In some plants exists physical dormancy, where the seed develops an additional coat outside it called the seed coat, and then it remains inactive within that coat, and whenever the favorable conditions come back, then the coat breaks and the seed is allowed to germinate. So that is an example of physical dormancy. So physical dormancy, and in physical dormancy what happens? A seed coat, additional seed coat outside is developed. So that's physical dormancy. Similarly, mechanical dormancy can happen, chemical dormancy, physiological dormancy. So there are many different categories of dormancy in seeds. So due to reduced metabolic activity during dormancy, a lot of energy here also can be conserved. And that's how, even though the seed is still alive and it is still capable of giving rise to a new plant, but it is just that it goes for a long pause. And that long pause is nothing but termed as seed dormancy. The third term which is used for the suspension is aestivation. So aestivation is the period when fishes get into the inactive mode during very hot or dry conditions. Now fishes live in water, so they are more comfortable with the presence of water, wet conditions for their survival. Now sometimes what happens is the weather becomes very hot, so a lot of ponds and rivers, they start drying up, so the content of water decreases in the water bodies. So during those periods, fishes also enter into an inactive mode so that their energy requirements reduce, and that's how they can just overcome the unfavorable time period. So this period in case of fishes is known as aestivation. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again.